Okay, well, I can see we've got a huge number already on and ready to go. So let's get started. And hello to all of you on behalf of the Minerva Network and Business Western Sydney. Welcome to our Shooting for the Stars webinar. I'm joining you from Gadigal land today, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and all the lands from which you're joining us. And I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that respect to everyone of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent who's with us today. I'm Stephanie BRANTZ. I'm a huge friend and fan of the Minerva Network, and I'm pretty thrilled to be your MC for the next hour because you know what an exciting hour we have ahead. Alongside me here is Christine McLoughlin AM, Chair of the Minerva Network. We're both delighted to see, well, virtually, to have your smiling faces with us, and congratulations to all of you. New South Wales is coming out the other side of what is a super tough period. You've all worked your way through what is a seriously challenging time. Lockdown, trying to do your schoolwork from home, isolated from your friends. You've had to be strong, you've had to be courageous, and you've had to be resilient. And Christine, these students might not realise it, but they're characteristics that they actually share with these amazing athletes. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%, Steph. And I'm sure when we hear from our athletes today, you will each be very surprised just how much you have in common with these world champions. So that will make you feel fantastic. And I think, Steph, too, we've also got a few university students who've jumped on today. So welcome to you as well. A big warm welcome to every single one of our students here today. It's going to be fun and it's going to be stimulating. But like Steph, hey, congratulations. We've made it to the other side of lockdown. And we might have been apart, but really we were all together because we were all experiencing very similar emotions and very similar experiences, albeit the environments might have been different. So as for the athletes today, it's been my great privilege to have got to know these amazing women through the Minerva Network, and they each inspire me for different reasons and in different ways. And they too have had many weeks, many weeks of isolation and quarantine, and they too have been separated from family and friends. So you don't always get to see that on the big screen. So you'll get some secrets today. Steph will be able to pull those out. So as you join us, listen to our athletes today. Take a moment to reflect while you're here, what you have achieved, and importantly, what the future could hold for you. I encourage you to set your sights high and work towards something you believe in, because when you find your purpose, you will find your place. And we know that dreams without goals are just dreams. So harness your passion and commit to your next chapter, as our amazing athletes have. So let me now introduce the New South Wales Minister for Sport, the Honourable NATALIE Ward. She was genuinely thrilled when she heard of our event, getting new students together with our champion athletes today.
As Minister for Sport, I'm delighted to welcome you to this exciting forum, Shooting for the Stars, to celebrate the achievements of our incredible Olympic and Paralympic athletes and to recognise your achievements in getting through this lockdown. It's fair to say the global pandemic has been challenging for all of us, impacting all our lives. Yet at the same time, it's given us a rare opportunity to pause and consider how we live. Reflecting on my own experience, I've found simple things like fresh air and exercise help me to cope throughout lockdown. I also found watching the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympic Games this year incredibly uplifting. Seeing the athletes cheer each other on, creating countless moments of joy, made the world feel more connected. Sport gives us the opportunity to connect with friends and share healthy competition together, something we've all missed during lockdown. It also builds confidence as we learn and hone skills and, importantly, build our resilience, which is something we've all experienced this year. I was so thrilled when the Minerva Network suggested this special webinar to link Tokyo competitors with students in lockdown, as each have faced their own challenges. And these incredible athletes jumped at the chance. You'll hear from some of the athletes about having a Minerva mentor help them achieve. As you consider your own next chapter, thinking about finding a mentor might be something that you consider. I know the past few months have been incredibly challenging. Learning from home, isolating from friends, and curtailing our activities has been hard. It's been a test of our strength, courage, and resilience. So today you're in for a treat, hearing from our finest sportswomen and the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games, who will talk about their stories, how they face their hardest days to achieve their ultimate goals. I know they'll provide inspiration to you all, and I hope you take away the importance of believing in yourself and chasing your dreams. Enjoy the event, and thank you, Minerva.
Well, thank you, Minister Ward. Now, I can tell you she wanted to be here, but unfortunately she got called away to a press conference. We're giving her a leave pass on this occasion, though, because that press conference is for our wonderful Matildas, who you will know are back in Australia finally and in action against Brazil on Saturday and again on Tuesday. So unfortunately, we couldn't have Minister Ward, but we are delighted to have one of the Matildas with us today. So let's get right into it and hear about our athletes now. And to tell us about them, I'm delighted to introduce Mim HAYSOM from GIO Australia. She's going to introduce these amazing women. Mim.
Thanks, Steph, and good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Mim HAYSOM, and I am the Executive General Manager of Brand and Marketing at SUNCORP Group, which includes the GIO brand, who is helping to support today's event. And in my role, I feel so incredibly lucky because through our bank and insurance brands, SUNCORP, AAMI and GIO, we have the privilege of working with some of the best sporting organisations in Australia. Organisations such as the AFL and AFL Women, Wheelchair Sports New South Wales and Netball Australia as well, who we partner with on our Team Girls program, some of you might be familiar with. In all of our dealings with these great sporting organisations, I'm really fortunate also to have exposure to some of the amazing athletes performing within these sporting codes. And I am always struck and in awe of how focused and how resilient these athletes are, and how they have so much experience and knowledge that we can learn from in terms of leadership skills, seizing and making opportunities for ourselves, and building confidence and resilience. And these are things that we can all benefit from in our day-to-day. And that's why I am so pleased to be able to support Minerva today through our GIO brand and help to put together a panel of such extraordinary athletes for you all to hear from. So joining us today, we have with us Cate Campbell, OAM, who is a 3-time Olympic gold medal winning swimmer. Hi, Cate. Ellie Carpenter, a Matilda and 2-time Olympian, a UEFA Champions League winner and PFA Footballer of the Year. Melissa Wu, a 2-time Olympic medal winning diver. GEORGIE Rowe, Olympic finalist and 2-time rowing world championship medalist. And the fabulous MATILDA Rozario, 2-time Paralympic wheelchair racing gold medalist, and not to mention 7-time winner of our GIO Ausday 10K Classic. Such an incredible group of humans. We are absolutely thrilled to be able to hear from you all today. And I hope all of you enjoy the discussion. And thanks so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to be part of this wonderful event. So, Steph, I'll hand back over to you and let's kick things off.
Thanks so much, Mim. And of course, thanks to GIO Australia for being such huge supporters of the Minerva Network. Let's meet our athletes individually first and just hear a bit about their recent experiences before we have an all-in after that. Cate Campbell, you're the first cab off the rank, the lucky one out of the blocks. You're used to being quick out of the blocks. Congratulations on a wonderful 4th Olympic campaign. 3 more medals in your trophy cabinet and the honour of being flag bearer with Paddy Mills for the opening ceremony. How do you even sum that up?
I think it's still really sinking in. It was an incredible experience. And I think that because it was delayed for a year, because everyone was in various states of unrest all around the country and around the world, I really felt this profound sense of gratitude just to be at the Olympic Games, which it seems strange. You know, we should always feel grateful to be able to go to an Olympic Games, but that often gets kind of lost in the stress and the expectation to perform. But I just had this sense that I was so grateful to be able to go and to be able to do what I love.
Well, we were so grateful to all of you for entertaining us. As Mim alluded to, it must be the most watched Olympics and Paralympics ever because we were all glued to our televisions, and in my case, glued to 3 different screens. We had every screen in the house going. Now, we know that you came back, though, not to a party with your family, but to hotel quarantine. And Sam Chesterton, who's a sports prefect at Concord High, has a question for you about this. Have a look.
My question is, Cate Campbell, Were you able to use your double quarantine in August to come down from the hype of the Olympics? And how important was the outpour of support from the Australian public in helping you push through that?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think that at the beginning, it was really lovely to be able to come back and just sleep and not talk to anyone. For about the first 3 days, I actually wasn't upset to be in hotel quarantine. But I have to say that after that, I was pretty ready to see my friends and family. It had been about 8 or 9 weeks since I'd been able to see them because I'd had to leave early to escape COVID and a whole heap of other things that went on. So it was a bit of a struggle, and I definitely would have loved to be able to go and see them a little bit earlier. But like I said, I was just so grateful that we could go over there and actually compete at an Olympic Games and to be able to go overseas and come back into the country, that I kind of felt like if this is what I had to do, then I would get through it. So I did a lot of headstands, and by the end of it, I was pretty ready to climb over the balcony to get out of there.
I can imagine, Kate. And it was so fun to speak to you in there because it's the first time athletes have said, call any time. We've got all the time in the world. So it was a great time to catch all of these wonderful athletes. Ellie Carpenter, I want to move on to you. You've literally just flown into Australia. I saw your tweet last night with a picture of Hello Australia again. So welcome back and congratulations to you. You, of course, played a starring role in the Matilda's exceptional run in Tokyo. The lead up, though, that can't have been easy. You're in Europe. I think your whole Olympic Lyonnais team caught COVID. You were stuck overseas. I know you're now nailing interviews in French because we've heard you in your fluent Francais, but you haven't been able to come home in 2 years to see your family. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, thank you. It was very nice to be flying back into Australia last night. Obviously still in not ideal circumstances, but very lucky to be back in Australia. And it has been very difficult not being home for such a long time, but I'm very excited to play in front of my family for the first time in 2 years on Saturday. I think it'll be quite emotional to see them. But yeah, I guess the preparation before the Olympics was not ideal as well. Obviously, we were all over the place, all in Europe, and I had to miss a few camps as well leading up because of COVID. And yeah, our whole team in France did catch COVID through the thick of it all. So, but I think overall for us at the Olympics and for the Matildas, we made history there. So very proud of our team, and we're just very excited that we can play on home soil on Saturday in front of everyone. And just say thank you for sticking with us through that tournament as well, because we know we had record 2 million viewers watching our games. So we're very appreciative of that, and very excited to see you all on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. The first international sporting event back in New South Wales in a very long time. It'll be great to have your family and friends in the stand. But cast your mind back, given your quite extreme COVID experience, you're pretty well placed to answer a question from Brooke Smith from Concord High. Listen to this one.
Hello, Olympians and Paralympians. My name is Brooke Smith from Concord High School. My first question is, how did the COVID restrictions affect the atmosphere at the Olympics without major crowds or your families there to support you?
Yeah, I think having no fans or family at the Olympics was very bizarre. It didn't really feel like an Olympic Games, but then also it did. Obviously, it was very different to the experience that I had in Rio in 2016. But like Kate said earlier, I think it was just so humbling and grateful to actually be there and competing at the Olympics, as it was a year late and we were just so lucky to have it go ahead. But very strange walking out into a massive stadium with no one in there. Usually used to, so much noise, and I think there was fake noise going on during the game, which was very strange. But I got used to that, obviously playing in COVID restrictions over a year and a half, 2 years. So I can't wait to play in front of, so many fans, hopefully on Saturday.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to seeing you and all your teammates out there, Ellie. Maddie de Rozario, coming over to you. I have no words to describe your performances in Tokyo. What a superstar. Your 4th Paralympic Games. That's achievement enough. But for elite athletes, you set the bar pretty high after silver in Beijing as a 14-year-old, then in Rio in 2016. How did it feel to be on top of the podium, not once, but twice? Can you describe the difference?
It's both so different and so contrasting and somehow exactly the same, which has been, I think, one of the things that I've been trying to process since coming home. I think, you know, it's that goal you set. It's the goal that I've had since I was 14, my first Paralympics. I remember walking out into the bird's nest opening ceremony, and it was, you know, that kind of dream is there. And I was 14. I was a part of the relay team. We weren't expected to win a gold medal, and I absolutely did not. But it's been that dream since 08. So to finally do it and to have, you know, my coach there and my team there was unreal. And I can't even begin to describe how that felt. Having said that, you kind of wake up the next morning and you realize that everything is exactly the same. Like, yes, you carry that pride with you of what you did, and there is this sense of accomplishment, but you're the same person surrounded by the same people with the same goals. And for me, it was, you had to get back into that mindset because I won the 800, and 24 hours later, I had to get back on the track for the 1500 semifinal. So you can't really stay in that moment. So I think one of the coolest lessons from these games from me was that it doesn't define any part of who you are, that huge success or those failures. It's just about the process and who you are and all that.
Well, Sam Chesterton from Concord High asked the question that I think any of us who were watching the marathon were wondering. Let's have a listen to this question.
My name is Sam Chesterton, and I'm a sports prefect at Concord High School. My question is to Madison de Rozario. What was your motivation and what was going through your head when you made that push up the hill in the last stretch of the Paralympic marathon?
That was, that hill is so vivid in my memory. I remember my coach did the course recce for me. I didn't go out on it. And one of the main thing that she said to me when she came back to the village was, the race could be won or lost on this hill. This is where you have to, the decision you make here will define how it goes. And I remember thinking that, and we started kind of climbing that hill, and the Dutch girl who was in bronze by the end, I saw her wheel come past mine, and I think something just clicked. This was the moment that my coach was talking about. This is where I really had to give absolutely everything. It was about 3K to go, so you're 39 kilometers into this marathon, and I remember just wanting to give it absolutely everything. And that hill turned out to be the easy part of that last 3 kilometers. I remember getting over it, coming back down, creating a bit of a gap, and there was a moment there where I was like, I could really do this. Followed by the immediate thought of just sheer panic that I may have acted too early, because a 3 kilometer final sprint is a really long sprint. And so a lot of that was trying to reconvince myself to just have complete faith and trust in myself and my body that I could get across that finish line first. And it was barely there. That was one of the closest finishes of a marathon that I have ever been in. But thankfully it was enough.
Well, it made sure that everyone's eyes were glued to the television right to the last second of the game. So congratulations. And what a way to win it. Georgie Rowe, let's come to you. With your surname, it feels like it's fate that you're going to end up in this sport. Congratulations on your first Olympics. Now, you came from a start in surf boats, and it feels like in the blink of an eye, you're suddenly in an A final at the Olympics. Can you tell us about that journey?
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, Steph, it actually does seem like the blink of an eye, but it definitely wasn't. It felt like a very, very long, turbulent journey. And I've been very lucky to have some pretty amazing support around me along the way. I don't know if anybody else got goosebumps listening to Maddie before, but that was a pretty amazing story that she shared with us. I think my transition from surf club and having a surname like Rowe definitely led me towards rowing for Australia. And like I said, I've had such amazing support, and that was definitely started off for me in the surf club. And I know we're going to talk about mentors later, but having those mentors for me in the surf club, and people like Naomi Flood and even Candice Fowlson, and there's been a few pretty amazing people that I've had around me that have led me in that direction. And I definitely wouldn't be the person that I am and the athlete that I am without their guidance. And yeah, just carrying that forward day by day, and like living a life that makes me want to be a good person, not just a good athlete. So yeah, it was a quick transition. And I love my surf club, and I love my surf boat rowing. It's been very lucky to actually jump back in a surf boat now that I'm home. And yeah, it's just fills my heart with joy getting back in the boat.
And so much joy watching you, as we mentioned, with everyone. There was a quote from you that I loved, and I think that all your fellow athletes could really relate to. And you said, leading into the games, you've done all the work, you've done all the training, you're as fit and strong as you can be at that point in time. The only thing that's probably going to get in your way is probably what's between your ears. And I think that's so valid in expressing how mental competing at the elite level is. But what I want to know is, you compete in a sport where you're in very close proximity to you. So if one of you tests positive, you're all out of the Olympic Games. Your games is over in the blink of an eye. So I want to go back to Brooke Smith's question that we heard earlier. Were you concerned about contracting COVID?
I think every athlete probably was. I know that the rules for rowing were that if one athlete was to get COVID, like you said, the whole crew would be out. And I don't know if those rules kind of changed around the competition, but it's definitely a concern. I mean, you don't want to get sick. You don't want your friends to get sick, and you've trained a lot. And that extra 12 months definitely had a bit of an impact. But I do think that the Australian team, like, we had such great support, and we did everything we could to be fit and healthy on the day. And if it was something like COVID that just stopped you from racing, then that's pretty bad luck as well. Like, I don't think there was many people there that actually ended up not competing. I know that there was a guy from the Italian four who didn't get to race, but his boat still ended up racing. So that's why I don't really understand what happened with the legalities around the rules. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty terrifying, to be honest. I just really did not want to catch COVID. I didn't want to let my crew down and the whole team down. So yeah, it was definitely in the back of your mind the whole time. And I know that when the 8 actually raced later in the week compared to the other boats, and you could see such a huge sense of relief from the other boats that had finished and got their gold or bronze medals, and they were done, and we still had to race. We still had 3 days where we had to kind of wrap ourselves in cotton wool before our race. So yeah, it was pretty scary, to be honest.
Well, Georgie, some of these students that are listening today are about to go back to on-campus learning, and they will understandably have that same, it can be anxiety about going back into crowds and mixing with people, and you run the risk of catching it if you come into contact with someone who's positive. So how do you approach that, do you think, from an everyday perspective? Is that something that you just need to make your peace with and get on with, or how would you give advice on that?
I think this would probably fall into my nursing background more than my athlete background, because I think it's pretty simple. You got to very basic hygiene, wash your hands, keep your distance, and all the stuff that the public health orders are saying. Like, they're saying it for a reason, to keep you safe and your friends and family safe. So as much as I love giving my really good friends, and my mentor Rom's probably on here too, but as much as I love giving them all a cuddle, you actually need to just be safe and think about yourself and your friends and family, and just keep a little bit of distance and keep washing your hands.
Absolutely. Of course, to let all of you know that our athletes were double vaccinated to be able to compete over in Tokyo. And it's wonderful to see that everyone stayed healthy over there, particularly you, Melissa Wu. Congratulations. In 2008 at the Beijing Olympics, I remember watching you as the youngest Australian ever to win an Olympic medal in diving. That was with Bryony Cole, of course, in the 10 metre synchro. So it was a team gold. How different was it for you to win an individual one in Tokyo?
It was really different, actually, because especially because my first Olympic medal was at my first games. That was, as you mentioned, back in 2008, and to be able to then win an individual medal at my 4th games, which is a long time later, was really, really special. It's something I think that I didn't appreciate that much, because when you're young, you're sort of naive and you just go in and you don't have any pressure on you yet, and come away with a silver at my first games was absolutely amazing. And then as the Olympic cycles went on, I went to London and Rio, and I came 4th and 5th. And I think that's when it dawned on me how special it is to be able to get in those medals, and the work that it takes to even be up in the mix there. So obviously going to Tokyo, my goal was a medal, and being able to do that and share that moment, winning a bronze, and not just for me, but with my coach and with my support network, that was just such a huge moment for me. And I felt like even though it was an individual medal, it wasn't really, because I had so many people behind me that helped me get there.
Mel, Elise Woods in the chat box has said, what was it like over in Tokyo? Now you've got 3 other Olympic Games to compare it to. What was Tokyo like?
I think, as all the other girls have mentioned, I was really grateful just to be there. We weren't sure, right, probably up until it actually went ahead, whether or not it was going to go ahead. It was looking positive, but you never knew with COVID. It was really, out of our hands. So I think just being able to be there and be amongst a whole bunch of other athletes who had also been in really tough times, training and preparing, that was such an amazing feeling. And I didn't care about whether there was crowds or not, just to be there and to have that opportunity and to be able to do Australia proud and know that everybody was supporting back home, and also that we could inspire people back home just by being able to be there doing what we love and trying to achieve our best results. That was just such an amazing feeling. And I think having that sort of effect on people was really special too.
Well, you've been competing at that level for 15 years now, since that Com Games medal you won in Melbourne. You've been doing this such a long time, and I think Mia Vinciguerra from Sydney Girls High has a relevant question for you.
The Olympics were obviously meant to be in 2020, and then they got moved to 2021. How did you cope both physically and mentally with the changing target? And do you have any tips for Year 12s who are experiencing a similar issue with the changing date of their HSC?
Yeah, so it was a good and bad thing for me with the Olympics being postponed a year. So primarily it was actually really positive for me because I was really injured in 2020 and I was not sure if I was going to be able to make the team given my injuries and the little time frame that I had. So when that goal got moved a year, I was really happy, and it gave me a chance to actually rehab my injuries and then prepare really well and be able to make the team and then compete really well in Tokyo. But on the other hand, it was also really challenging, probably more on that mental side, just having to juggle a lot, being an athlete and with working and coaching and all the other things that I was doing. I just felt like my load kind of blew out a lot, and I was managing a lot of things. And obviously you want to put as much time as you can into your sport and prepare the best you can. But I felt a little bit, especially with that extra year, a little bit burnt out as we got closer. On one hand, I was really well prepared, but then also approaching that burnout kind of phase. So it was really important for me leading in to manage that as best that I could and make sure I didn't tip over that edge and go too far, because I had to time that really well and make sure I was peaked for Tokyo when I needed to be.
Yeah, great stuff. And it certainly worked out well for you. For some, probably a different experience of 2021 being a road too far, but congratulations, Mel. It was great to see you in action again. I'm going to bring you all in on screen now. Christine, you too, because you're such a huge supporter of these women. Can you tell us why mentoring is so important, Christine?
I think Melissa just summarised it really beautifully when she was talking about all of the different things that you have to balance in your life. So in the case of you, the athletes that you're hearing from today, you've got training, you've got competing, you've often got part-time jobs, you've got family commitments, you've got pets, you've got things, and then you've got studies and decisions to make beyond your sport. So that's what we've seen with the athletes that we've been mentoring through the Minerva network. But I've been very blessed, Steph. I've had mentors all during my life and my career. In fact, my first mentor that I remember now as being a mentor, I didn't know he was a mentor at the time, was one of my school teachers who actually helped me look at the different decisions I might need to make in terms of what I might study next. But I think the thing about finding a mentor, and you will have different mentors as you go through different phases of your life, and each of the athletes here can comment on that as well, but it's about having someone who is your champion, a safe place to talk about the hard stuff as well as your dreams, with someone who's independent of your family or your close friends, but who cares about you, and ideally brings some wisdom, which you don't always get from your peers. And I can say that about my peers as well, and some of them are on the call. And I think a person who can open your eyes to other opportunities, because sometimes, and particularly we see this with the athletes, and I'm sure you students are the same, you don't actually realise how much potential you have away from what it is that you excel at. So sometimes someone independent can help you see that. It's important that you have a mentor who inspires you, perhaps for different reasons to what you're trying to achieve yourself. I know when I first met Ellie, Cate, Georgie and Maddie, I haven't seen as much of Melissa, but I was really inspired by absolutely everything they were doing in sport. So they were mentoring me as much as I was mentoring them, I think. But I think also having a mentor, that person might help you see yourself as part of a bigger picture and take you out of your here and now. And I always think of my mentor as being a special person who'll always cheer me on from the sidelines. So that's probably what I would comment for myself, Steph.
100%. Well, let's get the thought of some of our athletes. And Kate, you're now in a position where you're passing your experience on to others. So we've got a question here for you from Emily Scollier from Sydney Girls High. Take a listen.
Hi, my name is Emily Scollier and I am sports prefect at Sydney Girls High School. And my questions are, how has being a mentor to students and athletes impacted your outlook on your own goals and journey? And what daily habits have helped you stay motivated and driven towards your goals during lockdown?
Well, Kate, what do you think?
Firstly, such great questions. And secondly, I think it's a little bit scary that I'm in a position where I'm considered a mentor, because I still feel like I have so much to learn. And I guess that ties back to what Christine was saying, in that you should always surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you, and people who are outside maybe your field of expertise, because there is so much learning that you can do from each other, even though you may think that you have absolutely nothing in common. I think that going back to what helps motivate you during quarantine, I learned a lot about myself. I thought that I was a pretty self-motivated person. I'm a swimmer, so I'm in an individual sport, and I thought, oh, I can do this all by myself. But I learned very, very quickly during quarantine and lockdown that I rely heavily on other people to help keep me motivated. So for the first couple of days, I'd set myself a bit of a workout program, and by about day 3, when my alarm would go off in the morning, I'd just roll over and turn it off. So I quickly learned to connect with other people and say, hey, let's jump on a call together and let's work out together. And I think that knowing yourself and knowing your own limitations is something that's really, really important when you're looking at going forward to success, because then you can kind of create little shortcuts and ways to help protect yourself against those little weaknesses. And I was really lucky that I have a great support network around me, and people who I can call and lean on, who are going to be there for me, who will say, yeah, sure, I'll jump on a call and we can do a workout together, or hey, there's this live workout class, go and do that instead of a pre-recorded class. So yeah, it's really important. And I think that learning to lean on people has been something that I've really struggled with, but probably over the past 18 months, I've had to lean on people more than I ever have before. And I feel so much stronger for it. And I really thought that it would be the other way around, that you lean on people because you're weak and you can't do it yourself. But I've actually gained so much from reaching out to the people closest to me.
Kate, before we move on, just quickly, Jasmine has posted in the chat box. She wants to know what age you started posting good times.
Oh, I am like Melissa. This is my 4th Olympic. So I went to my first one when I was about 16, but I probably didn't start to swim times that were really noticeable until I was maybe 14 or 15, and then I had quite a quick progression. But I started very young. There are some people who only start swimming when they're in their mid-teens, and it takes you a little while. Unfortunately, swimming is one of those things that you have to do for a couple of years before you can make a breakthrough. So we had an Olympic rookie on our team this year who made his first team at 24. So anything's possible, really.
You give us all hope. No, maybe not me, but certainly for all our students. Thanks, Kate. Georgie, you're still studying yourself. Can you tell us, and you touched on it earlier, how important it is to have a mentor? And I'm going to guess that it kind of helps in an Olympic sphere to have an aunt that's an Olympian, but your Minerva mentor is someone that you really became friends with as well, correct?
Yeah, I was very lucky to be paired with Romilly Maju, who I'm pretty sure is listening, but we've definitely... our mentor-mentee relationship is kind of a little bit separate to our friendship as well, and we have to draw a line in the sand sometimes when we actually need to get things done. So ROM's been great for me. The reason why I am studying is because of ROM, because I said to her this, I definitely want to move a little bit away from clinical nursing and study something. And she sent me a long list, an email of all different things that I can do. And kind of like Christine was saying, you know, it's not until you start having these conversations with people that are your champion and do just want to see you do well, you really do, you open up your eyes and you can kind of see what you're capable of. So yeah, it's been really vital for me, especially in the last 2 years, having her, and lockdown's been really, really hard. And that extra 12 months has again been challenging, and just to have somebody that's in your corner no matter what, and in a way it's not your mum or your dad or your grandma or your brother or sister, you know, they just love you unconditionally. But Rom to me, she's so, and I know she's listening, but she and she's probably smirking looking at the Whale Beach as well, but she yeah, she inspires me so much, and not just as an athlete or as in my career, but also just as a mum, and seeing her with her family. I just, it's so special to be invited into her family.
Yeah, it does become like family. And I think with the Minerva Network, perhaps all the athletes become like a bit of a family as well. Ellie, you were quite young when you connected with the Minerva Network. What's it like to be supported by such an amazing group of people?
Yeah, it has been a while. I was at the very first meeting of the Minerva Network. I think I was around 15 or 16 years old. So 5-6 years ago now. I remember us all gathering in the city for our first meeting, and I just think it's crazy how much it has grown since that day, and to be surrounded by such powerful women and people that support me, and I guess the support that I didn't know that I needed. Obviously I was so young when I met all these, you know, inspiring women, and I didn't know I needed the support from them until, you know, they told me things and I guess opened my eyes to the bigger world and to be an adult almost. And I think if I didn't have that advice when I was young, and you know, this is not right, you should not do this, or like you should ask these questions, I guess just getting those little tips that you don't know when you're so young, I think is very important. And it's just really nice to know that they always will have my back, and I'm very grateful to be a part of such an amazing network. And I know that every time that I come home to Australia, I know it's not been that often, but it's really lovely to catch up with them. And I know if I ever send an email or need something, I know that they'll be there for me. So it's very nice to have that support. And I just, like I said before, it's amazing to see how much it's grown and all the amazing female athletes we have now in the network, and it's just getting bigger and growing better. So very proud to be one of the day oneers. And yeah, very excited to continue more and work with everyone.
Steph, if I could just chime in, because I remember that so clearly, Ellie coming so young to our first Minerva event. But Ellie, do you remember asking us to help you get a car?
Yes, I do remember that.
There's a story in that one for another day. But and I've got the photo of that first event when Ellie was not yet 16 on my desk. It's very special.
I saw Maddie's eyes light up when you mentioned car, so watch out, Christine, that's coming your way.
Ellie, for the record, she got it herself. We just gave her the tips on how to go about it. We did not get her a car.
Indeed, and that's what it's about. Ellie, of course, everyone's also had tough times, and Tatea Curry-Jones, and I apologise if I've pronounced your first name incorrectly, she has asked, when you're going through a tough time, what's your biggest inspiration to keep pushing through?
Yeah, I think for me, I've been through, I guess, quite a lot of tough times recently, obviously being overseas by myself for a very long period of time. It's not always easy moving to a foreign country as well, not really speaking the language, or, you know, injuries or whatnot. I think going through tough times, I think I always just bring it back to the basics and think, you know, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I love this, and kind of go back to doing the basic things, and then from then the rest the things will come. And I think just always having a reset button and bringing back to earth almost, and yeah, I guess ask myself, why am I doing this thing? And I think from then I always have like a reset button, like I said, and that really, you know, helps me through those times. And obviously the support network and my family is obviously very important for me, especially my mum. I know that she's always there for me. So yeah, I would say that.
And I know that from the Matilda perspective, you knew you had a whole country. In fact, all 5 of you had a whole country behind you while you were competing away in Tokyo. Melissa, you've got huge ambitions outside of your sport. And while you have amazing prowess in your sport, you're also an established businesswoman, co-owning a gym. You've got an activewear label. You're also coaching. So if we were to go back to Emily's question, how has coaching and being a mentor to students and athletes helped you with the outlook on your own journey?
I think it's been really, really helpful. I think when you've been doing your sport for so long, you're always focusing on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And sometimes coaching younger athletes and mentoring them kind of reminds you of you when you're a younger athlete and the reasons why you started, and kind of what Ellie was mentioning, just kind of hitting that reset button sometimes and remembering why you're passionate about it and what drives you, and just seeing their faces coming in happy and excited and just ready for whatever you throw at them is really kind of a cool place to be. And sometimes I feel like I sometimes need to step into that sort of mindset and not get too hung up on trying to control every little detail and always focusing on performance. Sometimes it's good just to relax a little bit and enjoy the journey a little bit more. And I think that that's probably the greatest thing that the athletes that I coach and mentor have taught me, is to just be able to enjoy the process a little bit more. And that's been something that's been really hard for me to do over the years, because you do put a lot of pressure on yourself and you do feel the expectations of others sometimes too. So being able to just focus on yourself and enjoy the process is really important, because why are you doing it then anyway if you can't enjoy it and enjoy all the good things that come from your hard work?
Absolutely, Mel. And I think as fans, we all watch thinking, wow, you guys have got your lives sorted. You're at the top of your game. Everything must be falling into place. And sometimes it's not easy to see the hard work that goes into it. Matty de Rozario, even world champions need their people around them, don't they? And you use the expertise of a psychologist to get the best out of you. What possible advice can a psychologist give you? You already know how to win.
I think I lean really heavily on my sports psych here in Sydney in my daily training environment. And I also leaned really heavily on our sports psych, who was away with us in the village. And I didn't go in with the intention of spending as much time with her as I did. But I think after our first session, I would like go and find her while she was having meals. Like, this is an appointment. I just want to chat, and end up having like a full session. So I think knowing who you can lean on is so important. For me, it was about kind of reframing how I was viewing sport, and you have all the pieces. I think as athletes, we do know how to win, because we may have done it, or we've come so close, so we just trust ourselves to know that we can get there, and we have all of that. But I think working out exactly what it's going to take to get you there is really huge. And I think just having clarity on that, like, yes, you may have all the pieces, but how do you put all of that together to have a consistent approach? And I think physically as athletes, we do that in training, right? I think our routines are nearly identical every single time. We know exactly what we're doing. We know the questions to ask. We know what we're missing. And as soon as there is something that's missing, you know where to go to try and fill it. Whereas we don't pay as much attention to our mental well-being and our mental health, but also our mental resilience and how we approach races and events as athletes. And so for myself, the biggest conversations I did have with my sports psychs was, how do I put all these pieces together so I know exactly what I'm doing when I get out there? How do I put myself mentally in the space that I need to be in to win those races? And so it was less about providing me with information and more about shaping the information that I already had. And I think the key thing that I definitely learned from that, which I think is so important to everybody in and outside of sport, is that you do already have all the pieces. And I think learning to trust yourself and taking the time to work out who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and how you need to do it in a way that works for you, because that is so different for every single person. The way I approach sport is so different from the way someone in the exact same events, maybe with the exact same success and failure rate as me, might do it, but our approach is so infinitely different. And that's what turned my career, was working out how I needed to approach sport, who I was as a person, and therefore who I was as an athlete. And so that's the biggest thing that my team has worked with me on leading into Tokyo.
And there are times when things don't go to plan, Maddie. Sometimes life just categorically sucks and there's nothing you can do about it. I still say you went out too hard in your first Olympics by winning a medal, because that would set you up for expectations for every subsequent Paralympic Games that you would attend. But you had a different experience in London and then again in Rio, where you went in as world champion. How do you stay so positive? Because we see you smiling on the track at the Paralympics. We see you as a world champion. We see how positive you look here. How do you stay that? How do you have that resilience?
This kind of leads on from exactly what I was saying before. I had to take the time to work out why I was doing this sport. I think sport demands so much of you. We make so many sacrifices to be here, and we do this in every aspect of our lives. Sport's just one that I think we're all either involved in or witnesses to, but we all do this. We make big sacrifices to achieve our goals. And I think sometimes you need to take a moment to work out why you're doing it, because sometimes we do it and we lose sight of why and how, and it becomes not the most enjoyable experience because we're so focused on, when I finally achieve this thing, that's when things will get good, and we lose sight of keeping things good and being happy in those moments in between. And I definitely wasn't doing that the first half of my career. After the London 2012 Paralympics, I did nearly quit. I wasn't loving it, and I was so focused on going into those games and winning a medal because I had done it in Beijing, and I was not able to do it in London. And that threw me into a huge identity crisis, because who I was, I thought, was based on what I was able to do out there on the track, and I hadn't been able to achieve that thing. So therefore, who was I? And so for me, it was working out, why do I do this sport? And it's because I love it. I love training, I love racing, but I love being surrounded by the people that sport allows me to be surrounded by, friends and family, but also the performance team. I'm, the athletes that we meet, the Minerva network, those kinds of people that I'm able to surround myself with because of sport has been life-changing for me, more so than any of those achievements on the track and on the road. And I think setting goals that allow you to be the person you want to be in all those in-betweens is so much more important than whether you achieve those goals or don't achieve those goals. So that's what turned it for me. I love racing. I love the life that I get to live. I love the people that I'm surrounded by. I love the impact that I know I'm able to have on the people around me, either directly with me or through the platform that sport affords me. I love all of those things. And so even when the results don't come, I've had a roller coaster of a career. I've had enormous lows. But the reason that I love it so much is because of all those in-between moments. And so if there is one thing that I could tell anyone, especially you guys in school at the moment, is work out why you're doing what you're doing. Set goals that allow you to live the life that you want to live while you're aiming to achieve them.
Thanks, Maddie. Mel, I want to come to you because you've experienced one of the hardest things life can throw at you. And when you lose a family member, that's just so tough. I think that's one of the worst kind of curveballs that life could possibly toss your way. How important is it to have the right people around you? And how do you find the resilience in yourself to get through?
It's been really tough. And I lost my sister 7 years ago, and it doesn't really, even with time, it doesn't feel any better than it did when it happened. And I think that's one of the hardest things, and why it's important to have good people around you, because the people around you sometimes feel like you should just get over things like that and just kind of move on and just forget about it. But you can never forget about a family member or someone that's close to you when they pass away. So I think it's really important to have the right people around you and supporting you and know who you can lean on. And it's impossible to do things on your own. I think that it is really easy to get in that mindset of thinking I'm okay, or like don't want to talk about things. But sometimes just having people around you that you can talk to and lean on and you can rely on for support just helps you in a way that you didn't even realize, just helps you kind of just have people that you can trust in. And that is sort of what helps you move forward. And I think for me, having people in diving and in sport that were supporting me made it easy for me to kind of go back to it and have a purpose. And diving was the thing that sort of, I guess, helped me and helped my whole family when it's not that I didn't want to go back to diving, I just didn't even know how to continue living my life when that happened. And diving was the first thing that I then focused on, and it gave me a reason to keep moving forward. And the people around me have been amazing. My whole squad and my coach are people that I think that moment helped me realize how important they were to me and how helpful they've been. And I think then that sort of built our trust and built our relationship. And then we went on to be able to achieve massive things in diving together, which was really amazing.
Mel, Monica's asked quite a relevant question then, because you do have such a close-knit group of people that support you. If you could take one person to the Olympics, who would it be?
Oh, that is a tough question. Oh, people will get jealous if I say names. No, I think actually I have a really good relationship with my coach. And I think that, you know, with all the people at the games, you know, being able to have him and having worked together for so long and not being able to get a medal for like 12 years and then finally getting one was really special. And I think it's like how we were talking about mentors earlier. He, for me, is a huge mentor, and he's someone that is like a family member, but, you know, he's not actually family, but he is, sort of thing. So I think that it's really important to have those sorts of relationships. And for me, I'm so glad that he was there and I got to share that moment with him, and I wouldn't pick anybody else.
All right, Kate Campbell, I think that you get to take your sister to all your games, so it goes without saying. I want to ask you, though, to cast your mind back. Now, we know growing up is never easy. There's always pressure, whether it's school, work, making friends, those sorts of things. But as women, there's different pressures, again, to look a certain way, to be something that fits in with societal pressure. How did you learn to accept yourself, your body, the way you look, for the way you are?
It's really challenging, and I essentially grew up going through puberty and high school and my teenage years in swimmers in front of a lot of people, in fact, in front of the world in some case. And I am someone who is quite shy, who's quite reserved, and to be so public and to be so exposed, both figuratively and literally, was very challenging. But I think that it's okay to realize that it is something that a lot of people struggle with. I think that I felt embarrassed about the fact that I was struggling with it, because I felt like other people weren't. I'd look at my peers and think that they were also put together and that they were really happy. But as I've been talking to them and as we've gotten older, we look back at those years and we realize that we were all struggling and that we were all just not talking about it and not sharing it. So I think that firstly, it's really important to recognize that struggle is normal in just about every area of our lives, that we are all going to go through it, that people who look like they're in control, who look like they're calm on the surface, are in fact probably going through a lot of the things that you are. Struggle is what makes us human, and it's our ability to overcome it that make us, you know, who we are. And so people who reach the top of what they do are not any different to any of you guys sitting here on the call today. We have all been in those places just like you. We have all had our fears and our doubts. We have all felt alone, dejected, heartbroken, but we've all just decided to keep going. And I think that is really the thing that will get you through tough times, is just keeping moving forward, even if it's just tiny little steps in whatever direction you need to go. And for me, I developed kind of disordered eating around the time when I was about 19 years old. I had glandular fever and chronic fatigue. So I was really, really struggling. And for me, it was about trying to reach for things that I could control, because I felt like so much of my life was spinning out of control. And so I looked for food as really the easiest thing that I felt like I could exert my control over, instead of reaching out to friends and family and saying, hey, I'm struggling. I am losing my identity. I'm not able to train like I used to. I'm not able to achieve the things like I used to. I internalized that. And the older I get, the more I realize, and I know that every single person on this call has said that, but it is so important to surround yourself with the right people, with people who love you, who support you, but who challenge you, right? Who aren't just going to say, pat you on the back and say, keep going. It's people who are going to give you the tough news. And I was told, you know, you need to go and get some help. You need to go see a nutritionist. You need to go and do these things. And I'm so, so grateful that I had those people there to challenge me, because it was the last thing I wanted to do, but they were able to see things that I couldn't. And yeah, if you guys take one thing from this call today, it's find a good group of people to surround yourself with, because ultimately they will build you up or tear you down, and you have to choose which group you choose to surround yourself with.
Thanks, Kate. So, Georgie, I want you to talk to being part of that team and having the people around you and knowing when you've got each other's backs. So it's quite literally in rowing, if one of you is out of sync, you're all out of sync. How important is it to be able to say those things that Kate just mentioned? And what can we do? Like, what do you say when you can see someone else is struggling? How do you say, are you okay?
Good question. I haven't probably totally figured it out yet. I think we're all kind of on that self-discovery of asking for help. But my situation is probably a little bit unique because I did come into the sport a bit later, and I was forced to, well, I was put in an environment where it was very unfamiliar and had to make friends pretty quickly. My personality probably helped that a little bit, and my background in the surf club. But I think just echoing what Kate's saying, it is really, really important to have those people around you that are challenging you and nurturing you. But in the training center where I'm based in Penrith, it's not just my crew, the 8 that I'm in racing on the day. You know, it starts at the coaches, and then it filters down to the support staff, and then you've got all the girls, and we've got the men's team as well, so we're pretty lucky. But the women, like, we have such a big team, 25 athletes every day pushing ourselves, and whether it's at training or in the kitchen or in the gym, whatever we're doing, we're pushing ourselves all the time, 3 sessions a day, 6 days a week. So, you know, you're not gonna be able to train as well as you'd like to every day, but sometimes I find myself, I just have to say to my mates, like, oh, I'm not having a good day. And if you can laugh about it and acknowledge that, then you can pick out of the 24 other people around you, okay, I'm going to need you to help me today. Or I am lucky in the crew boats because we change boats a lot. So we're in pairs, 4s, 8s, singles, doubles, quads, probably means nothing to everybody. But you do have a bit of, you have an opportunity to have different people around you as well. And so you can take what you need from those people, and establishing a bit of a relationship with the athletes and the support staff off the water or off the field, I think is really, really important, because then you know what you need from them and you know what they need from you. And it's not always just about performance. It's about you as a human and you as a whole person. And you know, like some of my best mates at rowing, they know that I drink long blacks, and if they buy me a coffee, I'm probably going to be pretty happy. So just knowing those little things about people, and I think that's really important, all the stuff off the water for us, and just really just absorbing that whole team mentality. And the team isn't always, and it's probably the same for Ellie, you know, she gets on the field and there's 11 people on her field, but that's not just her team, it's the wider team. You know, you got a lot of people and a lot of support around you, so you have to tap into that, because there's no I in team, as they say, as cliche as it is.
Absolutely, well said, Georgie. We do need to wrap up, but I do have one last one for Melissa Wu, because I know that a lot of people are going to be watching you when you appear on SAS Australia. So very quickly, for all the reality TV junkies amongst us, what was that like, and why on earth would you put yourself through that?
Yeah, so we just finished filming last week, and it was a pretty amazing experience. I was very scared and anxious going into it, but at the same time, it was really good for me to kind of have something to focus on after Tokyo. I'm a very goal-driven person, and I think that kind of got me through quarantine as well, knowing that I had to train and get ready for SAS. But definitely, even though I was really nervous going in, I'm glad that it's something that I got to do and that I faced, and I'm really, really excited for everybody to see it. I can't give too much away, but definitely it's how it looks on TV. It's quite confronting, but definitely it was good to see that all the things I've learned as an athlete transfer to all these other areas of life, including on SAS. And I think it really taught me that I don't give myself enough credit sometimes for all the things that I have, particularly with mindset, with being an athlete. And I definitely drew on a lot of that to get me through, which was great.
Oh, Mel, we can't wait to see it. And yeah, well done on doing that. It looks immensely difficult. But to all of you, Kate, Maddie, Mel, Georgie and Ellie, You're incredibly inspiring women. You've had some wonderful messages this morning, and congratulations, not just on your wonderful achievements, but on just being wonderful human beings and taking the time to come and chat to us today. And Ellie, for Saturday and Tuesday, good luck, go the Tillies, and I look forward to seeing you back out on the park. To all of you, whatever's ahead, we wish you all the very best. But I do have an official thank you, and it's wonderful to be able to welcome Brooke Atkins from the Y. Over to you, Brooke.
Thanks, Steph, and it's great to be here. Yeah, what an amazing session. I'm super inspired from hearing everybody speak, as I'm sure all the young people tuning in are too. Just by way of quick introduction, noting that we are right on time, if not a little bit over. I'm Brooke Atkins, and I'm the Executive Leader of Business for the Y New South Wales, or formerly the YMCA. Our CEO, Susanna LeBron, sends her sincere apologies that she's unable to be here, but I'm truly honoured to be here and hear all the athletes speak on her behalf. At the Y, we do believe every day is an opportunity for community to shoot for the stars. So we do that through our recreation centres and offer aspiring athletes or just general participants the opportunity for swimming lessons, squads, gymnastics and fitness. So we have been, I think, the birthplace of a number of sporting achievements in our sites through 170 years of history that we do have. So we are proud to continue that support for all young people coming into our centre and really starting their journey in whatever sport makes sense to them. I think the speakers that we've heard today really do exemplify the wonderful potential that we see all young Australians have and can realise. I'm certainly taken a lot away from today as well. And I just want to thank all of the panelists, Cate, Ellie, Maddie, Melissa, Georgie, for your words. I think the resilience competing through a pandemic is exceptional and is another layer of challenge, I'm sure. And thank all the amazing young people who have joined us. I think it's a lesson to dream big. And I also want to thank you, Stephanie, for the warm welcome, keeping the event on track, which can be challenging at times. The Honourable Natalie Ward, Minister for Sport in New South Wales, for opening today's event. Mim HAYSOM from GIO for introducing our incredible panel, and the Chair of Minerva Network, Christine McLaughlin, for this forum idea. I think that people get so much out of these and empowering young people, particularly women in sport, as we all do continue to push for equality, which is so important. And of course, the key organisers of today's event, Minerva Network and Business Western Sydney, for all of the work behind the scenes to make it happen. It's a pleasure to be here, and yeah, let's all keep shooting for the stars. Thanks, Steph.
Oh, Brooke, thank you so much, and thank you for your support, and really well said. If any of you out there are struggling, we've got something to share with you, a screen to share with you, which shows you where you can go for help, advice, confidential counselling, and you can call in 24 hours, 7 days a week. If any of the things that some of our athletes have raised today, you think you might need some help with and have no one else to talk to, know that you always have someone to reach out. I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you for having me along to share your morning. It's been an absolute honour. And yeah, Brooke, you said we kept to time, but I could listen to these women speak all day. So we're very lucky we only went 3 minutes over. Now, of course, I don't get the last word. So it's now my absolute pleasure and a big thank you and a big round of applause to hand over to the chair again, Christine McLaughlin.
Thank you, Steph. Hey, wherever you are, including our athletes who are live on the screen, let's just give a big round of applause for Steph, because you are amazing. Thank you so much.
They make it very easy, Christine.
And, you know, to the Y, GIO, Business Western Sydney, getting behind what we're doing at Minerva. We couldn't do it without our partners. Maddie, Melissa, Cate, Ellie, Georgie, and Steph, you are all inspiring. And I learn every time I spend time with you. And so I'm sure all of the students on the call today have got something to take away from it. So please take a few minutes when you finish and you log off today, students, to think, what stuck out for me out of that session? What do I want to remember next week, and take it away and just remember some of the really important themes about having the right people around you, resilience, ambition, and, you know, falling forward rather than falling backwards, and recognizing that you've probably got a mentor right in front of you. So have a look around, find yourself a mentor, and go deliver on those dreams. And we might do this again sometime, Steph.
That'd be wonderful. Can you imagine? And we're all embracing a new COVID normal. So as you embrace yours, all the very best. Good luck for the rest of your year. And as you go back to school, you're all going to be amazing and you'll have it in you. And remember, you have people around you. So thank you for joining us. It's been great to have your company. Thank you once more to all our athletes. And Christine, thank you to the Minerva Network. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks, Dan. See you.